Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me here today. If you found yourself here, there may be a message for your healing journey, soul's evolution, transformation, and or simply information. Today I would like to talk about boundaries and whether they're at work, at home, your personal boundaries, and safety. So if you've ever been involved with somebody that's been violated, and I have known lots of friends that have been violated in different ways, whether it's personal, professional, or in relationships. Maybe your voice wasn't heard. Maybe as a child, you were not heard or valued. Children are seen and not heard. But if you've had a relationship with somebody that maybe had said some weird things along the way, and now you kind of timeline back and put it all together and even question things along the way, you kind of have to wonder. Children that are abused by their own parents kind of have a different dynamic. Sometimes then the person abusing you wants to control you, and even if it's your own mother. Well, they should know better, but maybe, I guess, now you figured out that they were maybe primping people for certain things. Incest is a terrible thing, and if you were a victim of that, I'm sorry that you went through that. It is awful, especially if it's your own parent. If it's your own mother that's done this to you, and that's even worse, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Either way, your boundaries are violated. And if you were a child and incest runs through your family, it's an awful thing. Stand up for yourself. Tell somebody. If somebody doesn't believe you, tell somebody else. And always tell the truth if this has happened to you. Children usually are pretty open about it. And if they've had told somebody, and maybe their parents are called in, it's not an easy thing to talk about, whether it's the principal, the school nurse, your teachers. Even as an adult teacher, myself, I'd have students tell me things all the time. And you kept their stories sacred. You wanted them to receive the help, and you had the information that you could give them. And maybe if you knew some things along the way, you could help advocate for them. So it's important that all schools help minors advocate for themselves. If you are a child or parents, tell somebody, receive yourself some help. But if your own mother is a madam and she's primping people for those type of situations, and maybe she's violated her own children, and that runs in their family, you've got to say something. This is not okay to do that. Vegas is one thing, it's dirty, filthy, but this is actually when you are made aware that this is happening, you question it, and it's so bizarre. And then later on, you kind of circle back and say, what in the hell? They actually think it's funny to tell you that people sell their time. It's not sex, but they're actually out there selling sex, right? So it's the same. It is what it is. But certain, I guess, elite groups get away with it. You're selling somebody's time. You have an escort on your arm. But what are they doing? They're having sex, right? They're going home to their families, and everybody's got a gag order, so they just put them up in places and take care of business, right? So it's kind of crazy. This causes a lot of chaos in people's lives. It ruins people's lives to get used and abused like that, torment and traumatized, right? And then it keeps happening, cycle over cycle. Families, year after year, and then those families have children, and then their kids have kids, and everything else. Well, it isn't right, and it's not okay. So if you are a victim of these type of things, you need to talk about it and heal yourself. It's not okay for parents to do that to their children, and then they get away with it because they're elite groups, or maybe they've learned it from their own family. These type of people are kind of crazy with their dynamics. Sometimes maybe you found out they do dabble in the dark arts as well. Their own mother is kind of odd herself, staying up all night doing witchcraft on people to get what she wants, projecting that down to her own family and using it to her benefit. This sounds a little crazy to me, but it is sad because usually what happens, those type of kids either become bullies and or maybe their kids do. It's not okay to have somebody harm you in that way. And if you have told and you got in trouble when you got home, tell somebody else. And if you have to move to a different home, you're at a safe space. Protect yourself. Stand up for those that are victims of incest and violent acts of crime, such as sexually violating yourself. It's not okay. It's not okay. It is not okay. And when you know better, you do better. You stand up for somebody that's a minor or that's a vulnerable adult, and you do the right thing. Anybody out there should know this, but it's such a silent thing nobody talks about. Well, it's time to talk about these things and hold people accountable that are hurting people that are vulnerable. So I hope this helps today. Just remember to take care of you because you matter. And so it is. Namaste.